Okay, I'm Craig Halsey. I worked at Starcraft in 1969 to 1974, and I do remember building these. And I bought one in 1971, and I still have it. I'm the original owner. 50 some years later, here we are. In pretty good shape, but I taken motors in and out of it. The last motor that got into it is a clone Honda engine. I run that. It'll run maybe 20 miles. I run cattle with it a lot. We keep cattle for a neighbor in the summertime, and that's what I do. Nuts in an old road bed on our farm.
Looks to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it is. It is really in pretty good shape. Now, I don't know if that picture showed. No, but it got bad around the back end back there. So here a few years ago when I was redoing the thing, I flipped it up on sawhorses. Actually, I took the top of the body off of it. I took it all off. And I flipped it up on sawhorses, and I cut that back end out of it. It was, bruised up pretty bad, and we got a lot of stone. So I cut that off, and then got on the inside and refiberglassed in there and made it the newer style body on mine. So it doesn't hit that stuff. The only thing that's bad about it, I don't have drain plugs in it anymore. These have drain plugs on both sides back here. Yeah, right there. You're out. But, yep, and a hitch. That's their hitch, yeah. I did buy a Starcraft ATV in about, 1971.
Okay.
They were offering them to the people that worked there, and so we could get 25% off, and I think at that time it figured out to, I'm going to say around a little over $1,000. And then to get rid of them there at the end, they offered them to anybody for 40% off. And so when I got the 40% off, that was, they went ahead and paid me back some money. So mine was, it was a little over $800 for a brand new Starcraft ATV.
Oh, wow.
And I modified it and I put a 399 ELO engine in it. But they almost gave me the engine out there out of racing, so we had a lot of fun with it. I did race it a little bit, but one of the times I had it, I can remember going down the road and running it, and a neighbor was on his motorcycle, and I had the tires aired up, so it really goes pretty fast. When we got down to the end of the road, I said, well, how fast were we going? He said 55. So that's about as fast as I ever went in a Starcraft, was 55. But we had a lot of fun with it.
So what was the guy's name that they built the last one for? You said was what color of flake was it?
The last one that I can remember them building over there at Starcraft, they had it over there. A guy by the name of Jerry Sharvett, he was kind of one of the R&D guys, and they had it there. And Art Chapman was the president of Starcraft at that time. And I think he was kind of on his way out too, but they built this brand new ATV for him, and it had a different body style. The body style was all the same as this, but they were having trouble with the back end back here cutting and hitting rocks. So they cut this all out. And if you could ever find that one, it'll have a cut out here. This will all be cut away. And it was gold metal flake, and it had a 340 Rockwell jail ELO engine in it with electric start and padded seats. I think it even had a windshield, maybe a roof too. But it was deluxe. It was really a beautiful machine. Paint job was fabulous. But they only built one of those. But wherever it's at, that'd be interesting. But yeah. Another guy that was over there at Starcraft, Omer Krupp, he was the plant manager at that time. And he had one. Omer did. And of course, Lester Miller had one. One of the guys that drove forklifts, he bought one. Lanny Maroney. And I'm trying to think of anybody else there that had. There was a lady, her husband wanted one. She worked out there in campers and she bought one. Yeah, they were not a big seller. Too much maintenance. They'd sell, they'd go out. People break chains and then bring them back. But yeah, when I bought mine, I can remember buying it. Omer Krupp, he was the plant manager, and I went in to talk to him and wrote the check for it and everything. He says, "You don't want to buy more than one, do you?" And one of the guys came in there and he says, "Is he buying a Starcraft an ATV?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Sell them all to him." And I could have bought all the ATVs probably, and the business for probably, I'm going to say $10,000. I could have bought them all. They had them all stored in Omer Krupp's barn at that time. So I talked to one of the guys that worked over at Hurricane Boat Factory, and he said that's what they did. They popped one out of the molds that Starcraft sold them. And I think it had the new body style on it. It would be the original Hurricane, yeah. But they only built one, and it had Goodyear rawhide tires on it. It had Goodyear rawhide. And they had it down at Fort Wayne Boat Show in, it would have been about 1972. But it had just parts that they scrounged out of the stuff that they bought from Starcraft. I don't think they ever molded a body. I don't think they ever made bodies. Like you say, this is a Starcraft. I mean, they just renamed it.
I bought this from a doctor over by Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he bought it brand new
Yeah.
from a Hurricane dealer in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They sold them down there on the north side of Fort Wayne at North Harbor Marine. He was the guy that owned it. He was the guy that owned the rights to build Starcraft. I can't think what his name is now, but he owned North Harbor Marine back in the 70s, early 70s. And I think maybe he had some money in Hurricane boats there at Ashley. And they were building quite a few boats here, and actually they popped a lot of boats out up there. Trying to think, Mike Sassanella, he worked over there for a while. I can remember it in 1971. We went out to Ashtabula, Ohio, and the Gold Digger was the ATV that Jerry Charvat drove. And it had a 399 Hearth engine, compass tires all the way around. It was the fastest thing out there. He took, I think it would have been a modified C class. He won that race that day with that That was the last race they raced that day, was modified C class. And I couldn't believe how that thing, he'd have left the pack. Would have been great to have had that on film. But they were on their way out, Starcraft. I'm not too sure if they ever raced with their name Starcraft on them after that. Yeah, I think Hurricane bought them out shortly after that. And it actually, Hurricane name on that Gold Digger ATV that he had. But it said right here in the front, on the front, they'd taken the lights out and they had a plaque in there. It said Gold Digger. And he had quite a roll cage on it and everything. It was a real racer. It had I can't remember for sure the size Hearth engine, but it was big. It was just under 500 cc's, and that's what you had. To be in C class modified, you were 500 cc or less. So, and he was right there, man. That thing, it did have, I think it had twin carburetors and, of course, expansion chambers. When you started those up, they were very loud.
It says it's a Starcraft racer.
Yeah, now that's the style of roll bar they used, and I think they just bolted down through the body. And I'm not too sure, but what the one that the Gold Digger was similar to that. It was similar. When I hired on at Starcraft, I was driving through Wolcottville at the time. Now that's where these were, the bodies were made in Wolcottville, the actual popping. They made those bodies, all the fiberglass it's from the boat factory there. Then the assembly was done there in Topeka at the old pallet factory. Phil Troyer was the guy that did that. He was their foreman on that line. But yeah, that was quite a. But when back to the other story, when I was hiring on there, I came back through Wolcottville and I see the Starcrafts, and I drove in through town there, and they had one of the storefronts there open, and they were designing that body right there at that time. And it was Jerry and Bob were in there, Jerry Charlotte, and I think Bob Bontre was the guy's name. But they were actually designing that body. They had it up on, and I can still remember that. That's the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. And they did, I said, what's going on here? Well, they didn't really want to talk too much. It was kind of a secretive thing at that time. Not super secretive, but they didn't, but they had that was that body. They had it in a storefront right there was on the west side of the road there. I couldn't tell you which store it was, but it was right there in Wolcottville. And that would have been in July, probably, of '69. They were designing that body. They sold Starcraft also there at, the only dealer I really talked to was Bledsoe's Beach up there at Angola. There was a Starcraft dealer there, and he sold a few Starcraft there. And I talked to one guy that bought one there, and he said they had a Starcraft and they had another ATV that his dad had bought. And he said they always ran the Starcraft. It was a lot faster. They were even like this. It was remarkable how they would run. It would outrun the Max with the 295 in it, because the Max we had what they called a 295, but it's actually a 297, the 5-bolt head. But yeah. Yeah, mine, the one I bought that thing, it had those size, that style tire only, they said Starcraft on them. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but Starcraft actually made those, or had those made. Not Firestone, they were the other one. Goodrich, yeah. Yep.